Welcome to Planning for the Future, the podcast.
Welcome to the show. We're sitting with Scott Leonardi. He's the president and CEO of Complete Solutions out of Dayton, Ohio. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Well, thank you, sir. Great to be here.
So it's strange times out there as far as financial planning, the way things are at the moment with the lockdown and the way things are going to progress as we get back to the real world and the new normal. How are you preparing for that?
Well, you're right, Brandon. It really, we've seen things now that we have not seen in the past, and that's a good lesson for us to really understand. We've got to just prepare for our future, do the planning we need to, and keep on track, because so many things can just throw us off the planning track. And who would have ever thought it would have been a virus that really has just slowed down everything? It's just something we got to deal through, right?
Right, absolutely. When it comes to planning in general, it's something that people have to get in a groove for. They have to learn, and when it's time to plan, how to plan, and everything. And now with the new situation, the rules have changed a little bit, and how people are going to have to start from scratch in some points. Some people's 401ks are devastated, and we're going to have to just pick up and almost start all over. So when it comes to something like that, what do you do?
Well, you're 100% right. And I'm a big believer in education. My grandma used to always say all the time, these old adages out there. My grandma used to always say, listen, what you don't know won't hurt you. Well, what a load of crap that is, right? I mean, what you don't know in today's society will probably hurt you. So I'm just a big fan of education. It's time to be educated. It's time to learn. And it's time to keep into that idea and the concept of learning, evaluating your situation and just knowing what you're going to do and what your options are for the future. And that's kind of the key, because you have to adjust and go with the flow. But the key is getting plugged in. You just got to get plugged in.
Right. And you know what? Because of the resources out there, there's no reason for people to not be educated. There's so much access. They can call you, they can email you. It's not every moment has to be sitting in a room face to face. You can contact with your clients and with people in a million different ways now, and you can help them educate. They can always ask a question, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we've done with our agency. We want to be there to help our customers and our consumers from start to finish. So we do a lot of educational webinars on the web, and those people can kind of plug into that from the comfort of their house. Obviously we do live webinars and live educational sessions, when obviously the society permits it. Of course, now, we're not doing those live events. But just sitting at home and saying, well, we'll just fix this all later in the future is not what you need to do. There's lots of different ways to plug in and continue to learn. I've been doing this for about 25 years, and times have changed, things have adjusted, but the fact of the matter is, it still makes sense to consistently plan and focus on where you're trying to go. And things happen in life that throws you off that path, but you got to reevaluate and get back on that path. And now is a perfect example of why people need to get right back on that path and start focusing, seeing where they're at, and then again, projecting out to where they need to go, right?
Absolutely. So what's the process? Say that, I wasn't a very good planner in the past, but now, bang, it's hit me, and I really have come to the idea that I do need to plan. And what's the process? How do I get started?
Well, there's a variety of different kind of planners out there today. Single area planners, people who just focus on the money, or maybe somebody who just focuses on taking care of your health insurance or maybe your Medicare, that kind of stuff. For 25 years, I've always focused and talked about a holistic planning approach. And today I know holistic is starting to become a buzzword with some companies. I think some companies say, hey, we're holistic, but they don't even really know what that even means. But 25 years I've been talking holistic. And what I mean by that is there's certain financial realities that affect your retirement. And you have to look at all those areas, because those areas can destroy and take away what I call your life's work in a very short period of time. I mean, if you think about it a second, you look at your 401k, your savings account, the house, the car in the driveway, that's all your life's work. I mean, you spend 30, 40, maybe 50 years of your physical life working to accumulate those assets. So you just can't sit down and say, okay, my money's okay, I'm not worried. You can't just sit down and say, hey, my health insurance is okay, I'm not worried. Because if one area is messed up, you got a problem. So the key is looking at this thing from a holistic standpoint. That's kind of what we do. We sit down with folks, help them understand all the points that they should be considering and looking at, and then evaluating how they are in that situation, and then becoming educated on those options. And whether people decide to take advantage of any option or change what they're doing, well, that's okay. It's okay if somebody sees something, they look at a couple different options and they decide not to plan. Well, that's okay. That's their choice. The sad part in today's such society is when somebody has an issue, has a problem, and they look back and they say, gosh, if I would have only known, I could have done that. If I could only known I could have done that, I would have done something differently. So learn, become educated, and then you've got the information you need to make a good decision. I mean, that makes sense to me. How about you?
Right. And you don't need $1 million to start planning, right?
No, absolutely not. When it comes to retirement planning, it's kind of interesting. You hear a lot of different advisors or maybe people on the TV or the news media that says, hey, you need to have $1 million, you need to have 1.3 million, you need to have 860,000. They all have their different numbers. Well, I'm not necessarily believing that it's all about a big pile of money. Really, when it comes to retirement time, it's about the checks, the guaranteed checks coming in the door, right? Because if you got enough checks coming in to cover all your expenses and live comfortably, you're good. Now, it sure helps with some money, too, some savings accounts, but it's not necessarily about the big piles of money. But you're absolutely right. Our agency focuses on helping that person. And whether that's that person and their life's work is $18,000 in the bank and that's all they got, or if they got $9.5 million, both those individuals need to plan and better their situation to, again, be sure they've protected that life's work. So it's crucially important.
If you are that person with 18 grand in the bank and you plan correctly, you can be comfortable and you might not live like the $9 million person, but if that person did not plan, they can go nursing home poor or, healthcare poor just because they did not plan correctly.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned nursing home. That's such a big area in today's society that people just don't have the proper education on. They've heard in the past, well, that's kind of crazy expensive, or I can't qualify for that. So all of a sudden, because of what they heard, they stop looking into that. And here's the crazy issue when it comes to long-term care. 7 out of 10 people statistically will need some form of long-term care before they pass away, either home health care, assisted living, adult daycare. 7 out of 10. But here's the other crazy statistic I read about 3 months ago. 6 out of 10 people believe it's not going to be them. Well, Brandon, guess what? That math doesn't work. 7 out of 10 people are going to need it. 6 out of 10 people believe they're not going to be that person. That's a problem. So just becoming educated and learning about the concepts today. Home health care is a wonderful concept, very cost effective. There's different long-term care planning avenues, asset-based long-term care life insurance. And there are so many options today than there was in the past. So when people think, well, I can't qualify for that or it's too expensive, listen, they need to talk to an advisor, help them understand where they're at, and then what options they physically have. Because again, protecting that life's work, that's the most important element of what we're trying to do here, right?
And it's really changed over the years. This isn't the same long-term care planning that our parents had where, it was more like car insurance. Either you used it or you lost it. And now it's building your financial health as well as your physical health.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, long-term care planning it's just changed massively over the years. The old days, you bought a long-term care policy. It wasn't cheap. You spent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year, whatever the premium was based on the benefits that you chose. And then all of a sudden, 20 years down the road, you never used it. So now you're mad as heck because you just spent 80, 90 grand after 20, 25 years. So that's the reason why a lot of people don't plan and don't buy coverage because they don't want to waste the money. Well, if you relate that to your car and your home, some of the biggest investments we have in our life, we would never think to not cover that product, right? We never think to not cover our house. But guess what? We surely don't want to claim, right? I mean, we don't go along for 25 years with our homeowners insurance, and then all of a sudden come home and tell your spouse, hey, listen, I'm so mad that we've had our policy for 25 years and we've not collected on it. I'm going to start a fire in the garage this weekend because I want some claim money. I mean, is that what happened? No. We pay the premium. We want to protect our lives. We want to protect our asset. So the same scenario with long-term care. But the old days, expensive policies that you never use, and you're happy, but you wasted the money, that's still available today. But there's a lot of unique ways today where you can set money aside specifically for this. And if you need long-term care while you're alive, you get more money than you put into it. But if you never use it for long-term care benefits, now all of a sudden your children, your beneficiaries, will get more money than you put in, and in most times tax-free. So again, there's unique ways to plan. The key here is education. And that's crucial.
Right. And you know what? With that planning, it buys you some great peace of mind. That's a huge thing. Just the stress that it takes off you is amazing.
This is Planning for the Future with our guest, Scott Leonardi. To get a free copy of Scott's book, call 937-898-CARE.
Now, you brought up the kids. So, again, how times have changed. Do you recommend that when you're planning, especially if your kids are older, do you involve the kids in the planning?
Well, here's one of the things I tell every single client ever. I said, listen, don't go to your kids and ask them what you think you should do. Because let me tell you what your kids are going to say. You're going to go to your kids and say, hey, listen, son, me and your mom were thinking about it, and we think, if we need long-term care, nobody's going to be here to help us, and we should buy long-term care insurance because nobody's going to be here to care for us. Well, what are your kids going to say? Your kid's going to say, well, Dad, you don't need that coverage. I'm going to take care of you. I'll be there. I'll help you. I'll support you. And the problem is they just don't understand what they're saying, right? Because in today's society, people have a warped understanding of what caregiving means.
Right.
I mean, most people think caregiving means cooking and cleaning for each other. Well, if caregiving was cooking and cleaning for each other, my wife's caregiving for me right now, right? That's not caregiving. I mean, caregiving is picking me up and moving me around 10, 12, 15, 20 times before noon. Putting me in the bathtub without hurting me and without hurting you. I mean, caregiving is a significant process that people don't understand. So don't go ask your kids, hey, should I go cover this because you're not going to be here to care for me? Because that just doesn't work. Now, talking to your children about a plan of action and helping them understand what you're doing to help support that, I think that kind of makes sense. Today's society, kids are moving all across America today, so they're not even around to be able to help caregive. That's the problem. So, involving your family is important, but don't lay it out on them, asking them, hey, do you think I should buy this? Because nobody's going to be here to care for me, because you know what they're going to tell you, right?
Right. It's not the same way, again, that it used to be, that everybody lived in the same area or within a few miles of each other. And then when mom and dad get older, they move in with you and you have 3 generations of family all in the same house. And, that's where they were until the end.
You're absolutely right, Brandon. I say, listen, it's not Walton's Mountain anymore. I mean, remember Walton's Mountain? Everybody lives on the same hill. Dad ran his own business out of the house, the sawmill. Mom was home to help caregive. Grandma and Grandpa lived in the house. Everybody lived close. Today, kids are moving all across America for job opportunities. Kids have second and third jobs. They're chasing their career, trying to raise their grandkids. It just doesn't work. So one of the things I tell my clients specifically, listen, if you really believe your kids are going to be committed to come help you, look at some options, look at some programs, look at some plans that you can put in place so you can actually have a plan to help your kids help you. And if you really think that's an option, which I don't believe it is, look at a plan to have a situation to help your kids help you.
Yeah, I actually read a stat that showed if a parent comes back to live with a child that needs some care, it's going to cost the child somewhere in the area of $100,000+ a year in what they'll have in lost wages, what they'll have in, just specific costs for the care in their home, all kinds of different costs within that. That's going to be, that's a lot of money. $100,000. That's just for you. That's not, that's not everything that's going to be needed for the parent as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I read a survey. I think Genworth put out the survey. It was called Beyond the Dollars, and it talked about that specific situation. I mean, if the kids are having to step in and help caregive for you, it's costing them money. The utilities are higher. They're working less. That's money that's out of their pocket. They're stopping to chase the promotions and that kind of stuff because they just can't do that. They have to caregive. And then how does it affect their grandchildren, that whole situation? I mean, it's a downward spiral that massively affects the family. So that's why I say you have to put a plan in place to help the kids help you if they're going to be part of that deal. It's interesting. I was talking to one of my clients about 6 months ago, and we were talking about long-term care. And they said, well, listen, I asked her, I said, what's your plan for long-term care? I mean, right now, if something happened, you went in a hospital, you got out, you needed long-term care, what's your plan right now? And she said, well, my daughter will take care of me. I said, your daughter? She said, oh, yeah, my daughter's a nurse. She's medical. She knows all about this. She would take care of me. I said, okay, great. I said, where's your